Ashok Vyas, and Learning from the Leaders series. We have the presence of none other than Deepak Vakil sir, who is author, entrepreneur, and speaker. And there is an important theme that we will be discussing today that relates to how we relate to each other in the field of or the orbit of business. So, Deepak ji, talk to me about your first misstep in terms of doing a business or having any transaction, and you felt, oh, I should have been careful and I shouldn't have communicated in this fashion.
Look, if you talk about the communication, it is the most important thing for success in business. You asked me what mistake I made. I have made many mistakes in my life, but I have learned from every mistake, and I paid the price, and I've learned. So I will point out one mistake which I made here unknowingly. We all make mistakes unknowingly. So when I started this factory, I mean, as you know, it's a leather good thing related with leather. So we were looking for people, and I realized that if I get some people who are very good in cobbler, I mean, the art of making leather thing. So first thing came to my mind was cobblers. So I said, why don't I recruit cobblers? So I recruited some cobblers to make this thing faster, knowing that I don't have to teach them. But it worked other way around. Cobblers had a bad habit of doing things in their own way, which will not bring the quality. So when I talked to my American friend, he told me one thing, and I still remember his words. He said, Deepak, remember, if you want to write something, a message, you need a slate which is absolutely blank. The slate, if there are so many messages and it is cluttered, you cannot write on any slate. I got the message that because I recruited cobblers, they had bad habits, and to undo those bad or wrong habits, it takes years and they will never learn. Afterwards, I realized the mistake. I got rid of the cobblers and we hired girls. And the qualifying mark was, do you know anything about leather? If they say, no, I don't know anything. So I said, I will take you, I will teach you. So when you teach them, right thing to do, it is very important. They do not know how to do it wrong. Cobblers knew it, how to do it wrong. So to teach them how to do it right was very difficult task.
I think that's a very important lesson, open and clean slate. And now, cleanliness is God, they say, but in terms of communication, many times there is certain objective that you want to fulfill, and that is the reason you are communicating with people. So let us talk about how to be a good communicator. And as far as business environment is concerned, first as an employer, what is it that you have learned over a period of n number of years in terms of what helps in being on the optimum equation of understanding with employees?
Look, communication is, as I told you, very important thing, and especially when you are dealing with people who are not highly educated. It's a different way of communication. One word here or there changes the whole equation. Let me define communication a little. Communication is an art of conveying what you want to tell to other person. Two, three most important thing here. The words and the vocabulary you use, and you see people do not have to read between lines. A lot of people say, you why can't you read between the lines? But I said, look, do not expect others or everybody to read between the lines. Make your communication in such a way that a person who reads it, it's very precise, very short, and he or she understands it without referring to the dictionary or Google, or getting the message, read between the lines. So my priority was, or still is, communicate in such a way that other person becomes confident, comfortable, and he or she knows what he or she is exactly supposed to do.
And since we are talking about personal management in a way, there are occasions when you feel that what you are saying is not implemented to your satisfaction, and some people do that again and again. So how do you deal with these kind of situations? And allow me to add, sometimes you are aware that there are two employees who don't get along well, and one has complaints for the another. So these kind of things.
Look, this is an universal phenomenon. It is not confined to India or America or developed countries or not. Wherever there are human beings, when they are working together, there are two things: ego and competition. Now, the duty of entrepreneur or the smartness in entrepreneur is to take the advantage of their competitiveness. Say you have two employees, you give 9 marks out of 10 to one guy for communication or management. You give 9 marks out of 10 to somebody for finance or marketing. Make sure that their positive energies are combined. 9 plus 9 becomes 18, 9 minus 9 becomes 0. The best thing entrepreneurs should do is, I've written in my book also, 9 multiplied by 9 becomes 81. So whenever you are working with group of people or more individuals, you have to be very smart as an entrepreneur. Take their positive energy and combine with each other's positive energy, and not let them fight and contribute zero to your organization.
Now, talking about your business dealings, and you need to create new relationships. First, you identify who are the potential buyers, etc. So, what is it that you would recommend one should keep in mind if you want to do business with a company? Which, when we say company, ultimately there is one lady or one gentleman that you are talking to. There could be a group of them, but still, it boils down to personal communication. So, anything special that you keep in mind, and if there is a difference while you're dealing in the Indian setting or uh, Western setting.
Look, there are two things: speed and the quality of communication. This is also boiling down. Now, there are some basic rules. You see, we have a sort of rule, unwritten law, that whenever an email comes or a message comes or any sort of communication coming from abroad or India regarding product or asking for, we answer it on the same day. I do not go to bed without answering all my mails, although we are working at 9 or 10 hours time difference, but we do our best and we try and answer. You see, the other person somewhere in the end of the world, they have not seen you, they have not seen your product. They have the perception that how fast the answer comes back, and your face value increases. Hey, look, this guy has responded. Let me go take this relationship to the next. So the speed. Another thing is the quality of what you write, you know and precise, communication, so they can understand what type of product you have. See, your vocabulary and the speed is your passport. You know what other person thinks about you. If I see your picture, and then I can make out that, oh, this guy or this woman is worth talking about. So it's very important because it gives them the idea about your organization, about your product.
So I'm not aware about the extent of operations that you have in terms of number of employees, etc. And that's not relevant overall. But what is relevant for me to ask and understand from you is the relationship between employer and employee. One, verbal communication is important. Secondly, the organizational structure in terms of giving them the kind of environment where they feel welcomed or they feel they are part of the growing movement. uh, Anything specific that you have learned so that there is a sense of assurance that their interests are also being protected, etc. And I think you have been very emphatic on making sure that your employees interests are also given due importance.
Look, this is the most important thing. um, l- Modern management calls it HRD, human resource development. But first thing I want to tell you is something else. It is out of book. You see, I don't consider them as my employees. I consider them as my profit center. This is whole lot of different way of dealing with people. Uh, you will be surprised to know that when I started way back in 1986, uh, few women walked in and they presented themselves as an employee or looking for job. I hired some of them, and you will be surprised. And I invite you to come and see. They are still there. Their daughters came, worked for some time, got married somewhere. Okay, and their granddaughter also worked. What I want to say is, we do not have hire and fire policy, and I will not recommend this policy to anybody. But it doesn't mean that you bring in people and they are not productive, you still no. What we do is, we train them and we offer them lifetime employment benefits like provident fund, ESI. We cover them. We treat them like a family member. And my business in particular is so that it takes 1 year before any girl can make a wallet which has a quality to go to America or Europe. So I can't afford people coming in. We are not school. Government doesn't give me grant to train my people. It's my loss. It's my investment. When I bring in new people and train them and bring up to the level where they can make something sellable and something exportable. So I cannot afford this relationship of iron fire. And I love my people, and then I win their hearts. That's the only way. There are two ways of getting things done, according to me. This is my theory. People work either out of fear or they work out of love. When they are working out of fear, they will keep looking for another employer, more money. There is no sense of belonging to that organization. And another way of out of love is you win their heart. They'll never leave you. They'll never leave you.
So we don't want to leave this communication, but then we move towards another side related to communication. And if we talk about that communication, which forms the basis of all the communication, and that is your communication with yourself in terms of the experiences that you encounter on day-to-day basis or ups and downs as a business owner that you have. So talk to me a little bit about your inner dialogue. Do you see there has been some perceptive difference in the way you used to communicate with yourself maybe 20 years earlier ago and now?
There is a lot of difference, and this difference is still continuing. Every day I become different in the sense that more spiritual. Basically, if you ask me, I'm not a very religious guy. I do believe in God, but I do not believe in doing something on a particular day or eating something, not eating. I don't believe in those things, but I do believe in God. So, having said that, I'm not very religious, but I am highly spiritual. Spirituality, I never learned from books. I never went to any guru, who is supposed to teach me what. There are so many in India, and everywhere in the world. Spirituality for me has become a byproduct of my struggle. Every day I struggle, I learn things on my own. And at the end of the day, if you realize, that it injects something in you where you understand the truth behind certain things which took place on that particular day. Suppose I got angry on some girl for coming late, at the end of the day, I used to regret. Because when I shouted on him or became angry, she cried and I regretted. At the end of the day, in the night, I become little spiritual and learned that, look, I should have asked her, why are you late? Rather than saying that you are late. Had I asked you, why are you late, she would have told me some story that I went to hospital to see my mother who is sick, or, I missed the bus. So go behind the things and don't take them at the face value and react. To me, spirituality is, becoming fair to people you are work with, believe in God, believe in the truth, and practice those things on a daily basis.
Practice those things on daily basis. When Deepak ji shared this experience, it means you be more sensitive to others, and at the same time, as we conclude this conversation, now let's talk about your communication with nature. And I've known that you love nature, and the vision of greenery helps you elevate your soul, or imagine in a better way. So your relationship with nature, as well as particular places that has appealed to you in terms of giving you the opportunity to appreciate more greenery, mountain, river, etc.
Look, nature is very important. it works like our lungs, I would say. Lungs like clears out the bad air and purifies your blood. So first thing, where I'm staying in Ahmedabad, where I'm working, like it's an industrial place. Okay, we tried our best to make that place better in every aspect. But you see, I can do this inside my factory or inside my compound. But if I bring you from airport to my factory, the things which you go through, I can't control them. So first thing is, I always try and improve the things like planting trees, putting these small pots, and make it green. But there are places which I have liked so much, like you asked me. You see, I thank God because I'm not a rich guy to go to places like Caribbean cruise, but my business took me. We sell a lot of things in Caribbean. So about 12 years ago, it was my first visit to a place called Nassau. It's in Bahamas. We have a business there and we work with a very good company. So I went to Miami and took a flight to Nassau. So I was just told that it's such a small place. So I said, where this place is? So I looked into the map and I had to use the magnifying glass to find out it's just a stop. But a lot of cruise, I mean, people go there and one steamer brings about 1,400 people. They go down and then buy things. This was the business side. But I realized that Nassau was the smaller than the smallest place I've seen and better than the best place I've seen. Now, taking this criteria back home, now if you have heard the place Gandhinagar, which is official capital of Gujarat, where I live. So I have a little house, like what you call condo here on the 12th floor, and I have a jacuzzi, and I want this. I'm still paying mortgage on this. Don't consider that I have properties like you have people have here. But I live there on weekends, and all these three books I have written, I was inspired by the nature, and I was sitting there in a nice terrace, and I invite you to come over and spend some time with me.
Wonderful. So I take that invitation very seriously. But what I also think is quite significant for us is to keep our relationship with not only people who work with us or people who we do transaction with, but also relationship with ourselves and with Mother Nature. And as we conclude this conversation, anything that you would like to add?
Look, as I told you, the purpose behind writing this book is not the money. I don't make living out of writing book. I've written my living in the book. I want reader to get inspired and transform his or her life. And I just want to give one message, the book about book and my life. You see, you know India a little bit. We do everything in spite of government, in spite of customs, in spite of bankers, in spite of everything. It's like swimming up the stream. But here in this world or anywhere else, you people have much better environment. So if I can do it in spite of everything, why can't you do it with a lot of things going for you? That's the basic, the message.
So the message is, if I no, if he can do it, you can do it. In a way, yeah, you can do it too. In a way, he wants you to do the best that you can, and that message comes across through his words and his deeds and his written words in the form of books also. And once again, thanking author entrepreneur Deepak Vakil sir for
Thank you
joining
very
us.
much. My pleasure. God bless you.